Okay, so I wanted to run through a little Holdem hand here as a bit of a change of pace. It's 200, 400, a little NTT, and I open for a pretty standard size under the gun. I'm not going to like getting huge amounts of action with this hand necessarily, but it's a pretty standard open, I think. And it folds around. The big blind calls. Now my opponent checks, and I check behind. Now, I mean, probably not as much of a Holdem expert as some people, so perhaps I'm wrong here to check, but the fact is I do understand that in my opponent's eyes it does cap my range. It does make my hand look weak, because if I had a genuine value hand of any sort, I'd want to bet it both for value and also to protect my hand against this wet board. So the fact that I don't bet is going to make myself look weak in my opponent's eyes. But then a 5 rolls off, which looks pretty meaningless. Then my opponent leads out for half pot. So basically what my opponent is trying to say here is that either he has a 7, a 9, or a 5. You shouldn't ever have a pocket pair above a 9. You just wouldn't expect them to play it that way pre-flop. Could have pocket 8s isn't impossible, that he's betting for value after a check. Pocket pairs under a 5, might not even bet here. He might just try and pot control and get to showdown against my capped range in this situation. But yeah, I mean, I know that I've shown myself to be weak with my flop action, which means that I can then feel quite comfortable floating this bet with ace high, knowing that I'm still good a reasonable amount of time, and I will have induced some bluffs by my action on the flop. So I call. Then a king of hearts hits, which brings in the flush, and it's an overcard to the 9. The important thing here is, if my opponent is representing a 7, a 9, or a 5, well, it's a lot easier to have a 7 or a 9 than it is a 5 in this situation, because there's just more of them out there, cards-wise. And a pair of 7s or a pair of 9s, the king of hearts should slow those hands down. They could go for thin value, it's not possible, but most of the time in a tournament of this sort of buy-in level, I'd expect the king of hearts to slow an opponent down if they have a 7 or a 9, and they might be looking to either check or bet small for thin value. But the one thing I wouldn't expect is for them to bet a reasonably strong amount, because I mean, why would you do that in a situation where you have a decent amount of showdown value? You can't be 100% sure you're ahead. Why would you bet fairly strong in that situation? My opponent does go 2/3 pot. So at this point, I sort of conclude that because I've basically showed my opponent weakness on the flop, I have a capped range. The card hits the river that looks like it should be scary for most of my range. I mean, it looks like this should be the sort of card that I hate unless I've happened to back into a king. I mean, my opponent does have some value hands. I mean, a 5 is still in his range. It's kind of hard to have that. Or he could have backed into a king randomly. Like he could have bet the turn as a bluff and then backed into the king. But I think because of the way that I've set the hand up on the flop and made myself look weak, I've put loads of bluffs into my opponent's range, and for this reason I think I have to call, which I do, and he shows nothing. So